Hello and welcome to the Fighting Moose podcast. I'm your host and narrator, Jason Hendrickson. This is a podcast where I retell stories, some fictional and some historical, that can be enjoyed by people of all ages. Today, I get to read a story about myself. Just kidding. Today, we read the story of Winning the Golden Fleece, written by Carolyn Sherwin Bailey. This story has been a long time in coming. Not this story exactly, but a story about Jason and the Argonauts. When I was trying to figure out what story I wanted to do today, I was thinking of going back into Norse mythology, but then it dawned on me that maybe a Greek story would be cool, and then I found this one about Jason. I may be a little biased, but that dude was probably a cool dude. Anyway, I hope that you have been getting some good reading in. I don't know if you saw the latest Facebook post, but coming up in a few days is the new movie, The Call of the Wild, based on the Jack London book. I went in search of that book the other day, and I found a copy at my local Goodwill store. In addition to that, I found 3 more books that I wanted to read, and scored all 4 books for a whopping 99 cents. That's a deal if you ask me. I encourage you to check out your local thrift stores or book resale stores and see what they have. You never know, you might find a classic you've never read, or maybe you'll find a copy of a book to read before you go and see the movie. Either way, at least for me, looking at all the books is always fun. Now, let's turn to today's story. I hope you enjoy. Let's begin.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
The Winning of the Golden Fleece. Jason was having a boat built in which he planned to set sail on a kind of pirate expedition. He was going as far as the eastern shore of the Black Sea to try and capture and bring home the Golden Fleece. This Golden Fleece was a prize indeed, for it was a good deal like the magic carpet in a fairy tale. In very ancient times, Mercury, the god with the winged shoes, had given the queen of Thessaly a ram whose fleece was of pure gold. There came a time when the queen found it necessary to send her son away from the kingdom for safety as quickly and secretly as possible. So she sent him on the back of this ram, who leaped into the air, crossed the strait that divides Europe and Asia, and landed the boy without accident in Colchis in the Black Sea. Ever since then, its fleece of gold had hung in a sacred grove of Colchis, guarded by a dragon who never slept. It was said that the fleece could carry one through the air as far as he wished to go, and its gold was the finest and purest in the world. A great many adventurers had equipped expeditions for getting the Golden Fleece, but so far none of them had been successful. Jason had a different idea about it, however, than any youth of Greece who had set out for the fleece before. He felt that it was his right, in a way, because he was going to be a king if he could bring it home. Jason's uncle, Peleus, was the king of a part of Thessaly. Because the Golden Fleece had belonged in Thessaly in the first place, Peleus had an idea that any king in Thessaly who could get it might keep it and enjoy its magic powers. But Peleus did not want the trouble of going for it. He was willing to give up his throne to the lad Jason if he could bring the Golden Fleece home, and Jason was quite willing to be the head of such a pirate expedition with the promise of this advantage at the end. Jason did not even build his ship, but paid a vast sum of money to have it done for him. It was a stupendous task in those days to make a boat that would weather a sea voyage. About the only boats that the Greeks had were small ones shaped like canoes and hollowed out from the trunks of trees. Jason had decided to take 50 of his friends with him, and that meant the building of a larger boat than had ever been launched before from Thessaly. A gigantic tree had to be cut down and gouged and shaped by hand. New looms had to be set working to weave wide enough cloth for the sails. For months, the sound of axes and chisels echoed along the beach until at last this great boat, the Argo, was finished and launched, and Jason brought his friends, whom he called the Argonauts, to board her. Jason chose his crew well. They were all fine, well-born youths of Greece, and every one of them made a name for himself later on. Hercules was of the Argonauts, and there has never been any such strength as his. There was Theseus, who could move rocks and capture robbers single-handed. There was also Orpheus, the son of Apollo, who could tame wild beasts with the beautiful music of his lyre. Nestor, who grew up to be a famous warrior of Greece, went with them. They seated themselves with their leader Jason in the ship. A whistling breeze filled her sails, and they shot swiftly before the wind toward Colchis. It was a long voyage, but they reached this foreign shore with no serious mishap, leaped onto the bank, and went at once to the king of Colchis, demanding from him the golden fleece. The Argonauts thought in the pride of their youth that no one could resist them or refuse them anything, but the king looked serious over the matter. "You must earn the fleece, Jason," he said. "Nothing so valuable can be had for only the asking. Are you brave enough to yoke my bulls to a plow and plant a field full of dragon's teeth?" Jason gasped. He knew these bulls of Colchis by reputation, although it had never occurred to him that he might be called upon to harness and drive them. They had brazen teeth and breathed fire from their nostrils that consumed whatever it touched. The sound of their breathing was like the roar of a furnace, and the smoke of their breath was suffocating. In spite of his fear, though, Jason had another thought. The king had said that the fleece must be earned, that nothing so golden can be had for the asking. That was really true, Jason thought, and he began to feel a great courage. He was growing into the hero that he always had been at heart, being a youth of Greece. "Send out your bulls," he said to the king of Colchis. Something happened then that is very apt to happen when anyone makes up his mind to dare a seemingly impossible deed. Help came to Jason. Medea, the daughter of the king of Colchis, gave Jason a charm that protected him from fire. The bulls rushed into the field toward Jason, sending forth their burning breath like dragons, but Jason advanced boldly to meet them. His friends, the Argonauts, watched him in terror, but he went straight up to the bulls, and his voice seemed to soothe their rage. He stroked their necks fearlessly, slipped on the yoke, and harnessed them to the plow. Dragon's teeth were a special kind of seed to plant. As Jason plowed straight furrows and dropped into the teeth, the people of the kingdom and the Argonauts gathered at the edge of the field to watch, and it came to his mind that perhaps the king was making a joke of him. There would have been some sense in having that pair of fiery bulls use their great strength to plow in corn and wheat, Jason thought, as he plodded up and down the field. But suddenly a cry from the crowd startled Jason, and he looked back. A strange sight met his eyes. The clods of earth that covered the teeth of the dragon began to stir, and the bright points of spears thrust their way up through to the surface. Helmets with nodding plumes appeared next, and after them came the shoulders and arms and limbs of men. In a moment, the field was alive with armed warriors advancing upon Jason. He was only one hero against all of this foe, but the sight put the same courage that had come to him into the heart of each one of the Argonauts, and they rushed to help their leader. Jason led valiantly against the warriors, but there would have been no hope for him and the Greeks if his courage had not been rewarded a second time. Medea sent a charmed sword to the hero. He threw it into the ranks of the warriors, and they suddenly ceased attacking the Greeks, fell to fighting among themselves, and were destroyed. There was still another danger for Jason to face, the dragon who guarded the fleece with eyes that never closed. His new courage was equal to it. He entered the grove that sheltered the golden fleece, took the glittering blanket from the oak tree where it hung, escaped the dragon, and embarked with the Argonauts for the return trip to Greece. The people proclaimed Jason king when he and the rest of these young heroes of Greece landed in Thessaly. They chose him for his valor, not for his spoils, and it seemed to add to his new glory that he had started out an adventurer and returned a victor in a great fight. The strangest part of the story is that no one knows what became of the Golden Fleece after Jason and the Argonauts brought it home with them. No one seems to have ever heard of it again. Perhaps even such a treasure as that was grew dull and lost its value in comparison with the golden prize of courage and achievement that the Argonauts found and kept all the rest of their lives.
Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Fighting Moose podcast. Please join us next time as we read another exciting story. Today's music was provided by the artist Analog by Nature, and the audio clips were provided from NASA. For more information to download and or listen to audio or materials from all our recordings, or to contact us, please visit www.thefightingmoose.com, or you can follow the links in the show notes. And as always, try and do a random act of kindness every day.
Mission complete, Houston. After serving the world for over 30 years, the space shuttle's earned its place in history and it's come to a final stop.